Joe, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Evening, you're the first one today. Hi, Miles. Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Evening, Miles, and all CMF, good to see you. JP, how you doing, brother? How you been? Tor, good to see you. How you doing? Evening, how you been? Hello, Miles, the CMF. Covetous, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Artistic, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? How's things? Dennis, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles, the CMF. Let's go. Good evening, Miles, the CMF family. Funky brother, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Okay, so let's do a gist of what we're going to be talking about tonight's live. So on tonight's episode of the CMF Live, evening, pure, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? How you been? I've been doing great. It's been busy days, extremely busy days ahead. Hello, Miles. Hope you're well. T, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hope you're well as well. So on tonight's episode of the CMF Live, by the way, episode 237, which is incredible to be fairly honest. So on episode 237 on tonight's live, we're going to be talking about the Fed meeting. So we have notes to essentially go through on tonight's Fed meeting that has impacted essentially the crypto markets, but not XRP to be fairly honest. But everything else has pretty much been affected by the Fed's critical meeting that they did have today. We're going to go through the notes of what was essentially discussed by the Feds in terms of, are we going to be having rate cuts, is what really has impacted the crypto markets today. Then we're going to be talking about the Fed governor, Waller. The Fed governor, Chris Waller, has came out in support of rate cuts. Even though the Fed itself, like Jerome Powell and so on, assume that we're not going to be having any sort of rate cuts moving ahead, or maybe even just one very measly small rate cut, a particular Fed governor has came forward and said that we should be expecting a few more rate cuts than just one starting next year, starting this year. Then we're going to be talking about the relationship between essentially China and Japan, which is something that we don't really cover. We normally, we do cover essentially news alongside China. We normally talk about China and Russia, or China and the US, or China and Taiwan. But news has came out that the 30-year interest rates are now lower in China than they are in Japan. That's pretty much never happened since 30 years ago, to be very much honest. Then we're going to be talking about tonight's live regarding the crypto-friendly custodian bank. A crypto-friendly custodian bank in the US has just received a license, a particular license that was very difficult for any bank to be able to achieve. And this was a crypto bank that got this license, which is impressive because it's inside the US, a market space where cryptocurrencies were not treated fairly in any sort of a way. Crypto banks have difficulty surviving, but now we're seeing them thrive, and Trump still hasn't taken his seat yet. So imagine when he does take his seat, how much more pro-crypto essentially America can become. Then we're going to be talking about Gary Gensler. Everybody inside the crypto space is right now counting the days of Gary Gensler exiting as the SEC chairman and a new SEC chairman replacing him in his position. And Gary Gensler has decided to do one last speech for the last time, and I'll let you know what his speech is once we get to that news. Then we're going to be talking about Fidelity. Now, Fidelity expects, apparently, that the governments and nation states do start adding Bitcoin to their portfolios ASAP. According to Fidelity's essentially research, that Bitcoin reserves are actually going to become a thing, and countries and states and so on, everybody's going to be jumping on the bandwagon. And then we're also going to go for news related to Revolute Bank. Now, Revolute Bank is a digital bank, essentially, that has now just partnered up with a blockchain company. Now, they didn't partner up with a blockchain company for their payment system. Instead, they partnered with two particular blockchains for their data. I think everybody can take a guess who they've chosen for one of those guesses of the projects, but the other one is a bit difficult for you to be able to guess on which blockchain they went with. But I'll reveal more once we get to that news. And then we're going to be talking about Bank of America. A perspective that's essentially just came out regarding a CEO of a particular company has came forward and said Bank of America is using one particular crypto asset. Not only that, but they've patented about 80 filings for this one particular crypto asset for Bank of America. Once we get to that news, I'll reveal which crypto project it is. And then we're going to be talking about Ripple's president, who essentially has went on live news and said that we should be expecting XRP ETFs this year. And it makes a lot of sense because we're all obviously going to be getting rid of Gary Gensler, and America's going to be moving a lot more pro in terms of blockchain technology. It makes a lot of sense why we should be getting XRP ETFs or even Chainlink ETFs or even HBAR ETFs or even Solana ETFs as well. And then we're going to be talking about the sit down essentially Trump has had with Brad and the CLO of Ripple. So mixture news to go through on tonight's live regarding Bank of America news, China news, Japan news, and what perspectives coming in from CEOs and the Fed in terms of rate cuts. Now, before we go through the first news, which is regarding what was discussed in the Fed meetings today and why the crypto markets have remained slightly in the bearish sides, is mostly because of what the Fed was talking about today in terms of rate cuts. But as I've said previously, and previously by a few days ago or even yesterday, or even when I tweeted out today saying that the crypto markets have no choice but to be bullish, I am correct. The crypto markets have no choice but to be bullish. So the crypto markets should be turning green, as I said, today or the next day, which is tomorrow, in other words. But before we go for the Fed news, I just want to say to everyone watching right now, welcome to the CMF Live. It stands for Crypto Miles Family. I'm your host, Miles, and I go by the persona of Crypto Miles. And on this live, I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about regarding the world, completely transforming into a digital space. And the disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And we also do Q&As on this live as well, which means if you do have any questions, put it outside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer the questions you may have. And if you are new, welcome to CMF Live. If you're regular, let's go CMF. The live show has officially started now, but before we go through the first news, which is regarding the Fed meetings and the bullet points we're going to be going through, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go straight into the Fed news. Let's see where we were at. We were at here. Miles, Bitstamp have listed RLUSD. Yes, that's true. And it makes a lot of sense why Bitstamp has listed RLUSD because Bitstamp is a Ripple partner. Now we can cash up and convert it into RLUSD. Yes, we can. Morning, Miles and CMF. Shelly, good to see you. How you doing? Morning. How you been, Shelly? Gary needs to do one. Yeah, I agree 100%. Gary Gensler is an absolute waste of space, in my opinion. But the guy just doesn't give up, Gary Gensler. Happy Pisces. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles. How are you doing? I'm doing great, Kenny. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Orphan, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Evening, Miles and CMF. Peeps, Semper, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hello, Miles and CMF. I hope that everyone is doing okay. Scott, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? I still haven't replied back to your direct message, Scott. I haven't forgotten. Apologies. I'll take a look at it after this live. Sorry about that, Scott. Miles, when pumps start and no more dumping? By tomorrow, we should be on the bullish side. By tomorrow, we should be on the bullish side if there's no more Fed reports coming out or Fed perspectives coming out. Thoughts on XCN and ACS? XCN and ACS. I don't know what their recent movements are in terms of XCN or ACS. I don't know if they've signed any sort of recent contracts or so on. But from what I previously read on essentially XCN, it's an all right project. It's not what I would say must have in my portfolio in any sort of a way. ACS, which is essentially Access, if I'm not mistaken, it's an okay project as well. Again, I wouldn't say it's a must have. But if we're talking about what they've recently essentially did inside the crypto space, I don't know what their recent developments are because I haven't looked into them recently. I don't know if they signed any sort of recent contracts or got any sort of recent licensings around the world or even in the US. I could take a look into it if you want. Direct message me or just put a comment inside the comment section outside the live, and I'll just reply back to your comments. No problem. I'll take a look into them for you. Greetings, Miles and CMF. Lena, good to see you. How you doing, Lena? How you been? Evening, Miles and CMF. Mav, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? And good evening, Miles and CMF. Free Forever, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Evening, Miles and CMF. Jason, good to see you. How you doing? How you been, brother? Yesterday, I wanted to say to my colleagues, thank God the previous manager left, and I said, thank God Trump won. Let's go tall. Miles, I have the 1000 XRPs. Is that enough? 1000 XRP is a great amount to have in your portfolio. Not financial advice in any sort of a way. Let's go tall, though, for saying, thank God Trump won by mistake to his colleagues, essentially. Now, the first news on tonight's live, regarding the Fed. Let's go through the policy ratings. So are we going to be having essentially a rate cut? Well, the new Fed perspective is in on that matter, and which is why the crypto markets have remained slightly on the reddish side compared to the green. So the Fed highly anticipates critical meeting minutes released. So here are some bullet points which was essentially discussed by the Fed today. Here is all you need to know. The minutes of the meeting of the Fed held on essentially December 17th, December 18th, which was included details about the 25 basis points cut, were just published today. And here are the most important parts of that meeting's minutes published by the Fed. If the data plays out as expected, it would be appropriate to continue gradually moving towards a more neutral policy stance, and participants said. Participants said that the Fed is at or near a point where it is appropriate to slow the pace of easing. While participants expected inflation to continue moving towards the 2% target, the impact of a possible trade and immigration policy changes suggests that this process could take longer than previously expected. Some respondents said that they include temporary assumptions about possible changes in trade and immigration policies in their forecast. The majority essentially of participants thought that it would be appropriate to lower the target range for the policy rate by 25 basis points at the December meeting. Participants expect labor, essentially market conditions, to remain strong, and some participants believed it was necessary to keep interest rates steady at the December meetings, citing essentially increasing risk of President high inflation situations. Combining the latest data and assumptions about possible policy changes by the new administration coming in, which is Trump's administration, Fed officials expect GDP growth to be slightly lower than previous baseline forecast, while the unemployment rate is expected to rise slightly. Many respondents think caution is warranted in the coming quarters. Most respondents believe that interest rate decisions are essentially a delicate balance. And after cutting interest rates by a quarter point at the essentially meetings that happened in December, which were released today on what was discussed, the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, said policymakers may now be cautious about further cuts ahead, rate cuts, and noted that uncertainty about the impact of President-elect Donald Trump's tariff tax and other proposals has some officials approaching upcoming decisions as if they were driving on a foggy night or entering into a dark room of furniture. They're trying to say essentially that moving forward with a Trump administration, it's going to be, it's going to be having a large impact on the negative side, and inside the crypto spaces, and essentially inside in terms of are we going to be having rate cuts and so on, it's going to impact the U.S. economy. Trump coming into power, introducing essentially tariffs, is not going to be damaging the U.S. economy the way the news or Jerome Powell is exaggerating. Honestly, it's not going to be doing the easiest way to put it is Trump introduced tariffs the first time he became president as well, and the U.S. economy was actually booming. And once again, Trump coming into power, the news or the Fed exaggerating the idea of Trump coming into power, Trump is going to damage the U.S. economy. If Trump was going to damage the U.S. economy, he would have done it the first time around, and he didn't. The U.S. economy was actually thriving under Trump, excluding the whole COVID situation because it was out of everybody's control. Excluding that, the US economy was actually thriving under Trump, even though the news back then also exaggerated the idea of Trump coming into power is going to be damaging the US economy. Tariffs will damage the US economy. They're repeating the exact same words. And he's actually not going to be damaging the US economy. He's actually going to be fixing it because the US economy is already damaged, something that the Biden administration of circus freaks are going to be essentially leaving behind. And on that topic of essentially the Fed meetings and the policy data that was essentially released today, in terms of rate cuts, are we going to be having one rate cut or two rate cuts? And it turns out the Fed is still leaning towards only one rate cut, and it's going to be around 0.25%. Well, a particular Fed governor has came out and is giving different opinions compared to what Jerome Powell is saying. So here it is. Fed Governor Chris Waller supports rate cuts despite the Trump tariff concerns. So as much as the news or Jerome Powell is having concerns about Trump's tariffs policies, the Federal Reserve Governor Chris Waller doesn't really see Trump's tariffs a big issue. So his support for rate cuts this year, even though inflation is a worry, despite new tariff threats from President Donald Trump's administration, Chris Waller said today that he was optimistic the inflation would continue to fall. According to ABC News, Chris Waller said in a Paris speech, "I believe that inflation will continue to make progress towards our 2% goal over the medium term, and that the further reductions will be appropriate." Chris Waller acknowledged that tariffs could put pressure on inflation, but mentioned that the economic impact is unknown. He added, "If, as I expect, tariffs do not have a significant or present effect on inflation, they are unlikely to affect my view of appropriate monetary policies." He is the only Fed member that's came out with the truth of some sort of a way, saying that Trump's tariff policies are not going to be damaging the US economy, because Jerome Powell certainly thinks that it's going to be damaging the US economy, and so does every single news channel in the US. We're all against Trump and saying, yes, Trump's tariff policies are going to ruin the US economy. He's the only Fed member that's came out in favor of Trump, you could say, in a way, saying, we don't know if this man's tariff policies are going to be as exaggerated as everybody's claiming to be on damaging the US economy. In his words, he thinks that Trump is not going to be damaging the US economy. It's just going to be maintaining the way it is. Trump and the Fed are essentially on a collision course with each other, as the central bank may be reluctant to cut interest rates if inflation remains elevated. Trump's tariff-heavy policies could also essentially resonate the Fed, and economists believe. And then Trump ramped up criticism of the Fed during a press conference in Florida, calling interest rates far too high and blaming the previous administration for economic challenges. Mexico has vowed retaliation, and Trump has proposed tariffs of 25% on Mexico, for example, and Canada, and 10% on China. Earlier this week, mixed signals about the scope of the tariffs fueled market turbulence after a Washington Post report suggested that tariffs would be limited to critical imports. Trump later denied essentially scaling back his tariff plans and calling the report wrong on social media. Chris Waller, however, said this was too early to adjust forecasts based on concrete policy actions, but he did not specify how many rate cuts could occur in 2025, and retreated that more cuts are appropriate, not just one, basically. The pace of those cuts will depend on how much progress we make in terms of inflation while keeping the labor markets from weakening. Chris Waller also said that the US economy is strong and he doesn't see a significant weakening of the labor markets, he added. He said, if the outlook involves, as I have described here, I will support continuing to cut our policy rates in 2025. Chris Waller further added, other official Fed members have been more cautious. The resilient job market and inflation means that the Fed should lower rates gradually, and Governor also Lisa Cook said, and San Francisco Fed President Mary Dale and Governor essentially Andrea both stressed the fact that the Fed has to do more work to reduce inflation without weakening the job markets. I also do believe that the Fed should maybe decide to do their job as well. The Fed is starting to act like Gary Gensler. Gary Gensler didn't bother, actually doing his job as an SEC chairman, which was to essentially go after fraudulent projects, not the entire crypto space. It's same story with the Fed. For some reason, they're essentially reluctant to do any sort of rate cuts to bother to control inflation in any sort of a way. Instead, they've just been damaging the US economy under Biden's administration, to be fairly honest. And Trump's had enough, and also by the looks of it, a particular Fed member has had enough as well. Because the last previous speech from Jerome Powell, if anybody remembers it, he comes out and says, we're going to do 25 basis rate cuts, good news. And then he goes on and says, we're only going to do one rate cut next year, and that he doesn't believe in the idea of Bitcoin or crypto assets. And fast forward to today, essentially, where one particular Fed member has decided to stand up and go, we're going to do more than one rate cut this year. We have to do more than one rate cut this year. In my opinion, they're also going to do more than one rate cut. There's no way in hell they're going to do one rate cut this year with the amount of inflation that's going on. The more rate cuts that they do, the better it is for the crypto space in general. But if every rate cut they're going to be doing, and Jerome Powell is going to be coming out with a secondary speech saying we're going to do a rate cut, good news, and then it ends it with I don't believe in crypto, it's not going to really be beneficial for the crypto space. So Jerome Powell needs to stop personal attacks on crypto space straight after he makes the announcement of a rate cut. That's what he should be doing, to be fairly honest. And he should start learning to stop doing that, because we do have a new president coming in soon, January 20th, who's pro-crypto. I don't think those types of messages are going to go down very well with Donald Trump. Now, moving on to the next news, essentially from the Fed reports, that now you know the reasons of why the markets also stayed a little bit red today as well. We're going to be talking about China and Japan next. But before we talk about China and Japan next, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see where we were at. As I said previously, this is a live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. Be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's see where you're at inside the live, inside the comment section. Hi, Thomas, how you doing? Hi from Malaysia, Shakira, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? I love CMF. Let's go, Scott. Miles, sorry of a repeat question, but do you think we convert some money to RLUSD in the future, they'll make it very expensive or difficult to switch back to XRP? No. If you want to, look, RLUSD is a stable coin, so it's not really a token that's going to be fluctuating price points in any sort of a way. If you do want to convert some money to RLUSD in the future, will they make it very expensive or difficult for you to switch back to XRP? They shouldn't do it in any sort of a way, because in terms of fee structure, RLUSD is on the XRP ledger, which means the fees are always going to be minimal to make any sort of transactions. So no, I don't personally think they're going to be sabotaging you in any sort of a way if you convert essentially in the future some of your XRP into RLUSD, the stable coin, and then switch it back somewhere down the road in the future as well. I don't think they're going to be sabotaging any sort of a way in terms of raising the cost on fees. Personally, I don't think they're going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing that as well. I'm going to be going in and out of stable coins, obviously, and preferred choice of a stable coin is always going to be for me RLUSD. The more we go, to this digital world, the more RLUSD gets established on all types of exchanges and pairs up with all types of tokens and becomes essentially the next USDT, which is pretty much where it's ending up going to be. But I don't think personally they're going to be raising the fee structures on RLUSD in a sort of a way. I think you're pretty much safe on that aspect. It's not a repeat question. It's a good question, actually. Miles, Dubai is safe for moving. I'm not sure if it's hot place. Dubai's weather is good, but also if you want to do in terms of your blockchain, in terms of your crypto portfolios, sure, why not? If you do, want to move to Dubai. Morning, Miles and CMF. Solomon, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Even Miles and family. Ian, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles and CMF. Away but listening. Let's go, Stormy. How you doing? Yeah, not Jerome Powell gets fired. Yeah, Jerome Powell needs to be fired as well, in my opinion. He is he's a Gary Gensler version of a Fed chairman, which needs to be replaced ASAP. Jerome Powell has too much power that he isn't using it responsibly. And I do think that somebody else should take Jerome Powell's seat and use the power that Jerome Powell has, because Jerome Powell's speeches move the entire world market space. And he isn't using his time, essentially, every time he does do his speech, responsibly. Now, is that because he's under the bad administration of circus freaks, is why he's coming out with these notions? Or is it because he is also a part of Operation Choke Point 2.0, or he's just a moron? But time will tell. Obviously, when Trump takes his seat, is Jerome Powell still going to be acting the way he is right now? So is it, Biden's administration of circus freaks that's controlling his viewpoints, or is it just Jerome Powell being a moron? Now, now you need 19 XRP to start. They could say need 1,000. Okay, I see what your point is. Regarding the matter of, how many XRP you would need to establish a wallet, an XRP wallet, an XRP ledger. So it was originally you needed 10 XRP to have essentially an XRP wallet, for example, on Zaman, on the XRP ledger in general. And then they reduced it to 1 XRP or 2 XRPs that you would need. You're suggesting essentially, Happy Pies, is that somewhere down the line, they could say you would need 1,000 XRP to keep your XRP ledger wallet open. it's a possibility that, it could happen. It's a possibility that it can happen. But even if they did do, you need 1,000 essentially XRP to keep your wallet open, you could just essentially, sell off your XRP at that point, or essentially contain the trust wallet. So if you wanted to, there are ways around it, is what I'm trying to say. So, but I see your point regarding they might increase in the future somewhere down the road. Miles, what you think about Helium? It's not a must-have project in any sort of a way. Gold, please, coin, and gold piece coin. Employees, elaborate on that one. Jerome Paul is merely deflecting, pretty much. I agree. Oops, need 10 XRP, not 19 yet. Yes, to keep small retail out. Yeah, it's a possibility. The more XRP gets established into a banking system, for example, which we're going to talk about more on tonight's live towards the end, it's a possibility that they may say, to maintain a wallet on the XRP ledger, you need to have a certain amount of XRP saved and locked up. It's a possibility. You never know what can happen. You are correct. It's a possibility that can happen. Now, but there will always be a way. Always remember that. There's always going to be a loophole in some sort of a way. While he, INV. Yeah, so next news on tonight's live. We're going to be talking about, they changed it to you need 1 XRP. Yes, that's true. They changed it that you need 1 XRP now. But Happy Pies is suggesting that maybe somewhere down the road, in the future-wise, they might change it to a certain high number of XRP you would need to hold a wallet, essentially on the XRP ledger, and Tezamon wallet, for example, is what she's suggesting. Future-wise, not now. Now, but yeah, now is only 1 XRP. Now, China and Japan is what we're going to talk about next. China and thank you, that was what JB plays. China and Japan have had some sort of correlations in the past in terms of their money and their policies and their economic crisis situations. Now, as I've said previously, every country is going towards some sort of economic crisis bubble. Now, every country is obviously trying to avoid any sort of economic bubble crisis situations. China is going through a deep, very big economic crisis bubble, bigger than the 2008 situation. And imagine that one. So here it is. 30-year interest rates are now lower in China than they are in Japan. The reports that came out today revealed that China's bond yield fell over 50 basis points above its Japanese government bond equivalents. Data from Trading Economics also showed that Chinese stocks plummeted nearly 5% this year and are underperforming their regional and global peers. The report that came out today demonstrated that investors in China's $11 trillion government bond market had never been so essentially pessimist about the country, which caused the largest gap in the US and Chinese essentially bond yields in history. The firm also cautioned that China's $11 trillion bond market flashed warning signs. The country's bond yields had plummeted below 1%, and its 30-year yield fell below the Japanese government bond yield for the first time, possibly ever. The report mentioned that China's population dynamics were shifting on the real estate collapse and would be worse than the 2008 crisis. Now, 2008 was a massive crisis inside the US in terms of the real estate market, where the banks were giving out properties like they were giving out free samples. And when it came to essentially paying for those properties, nobody could really afford them, which caused a massive economic bubble crisis situation in 2008. China is about to go through the same scenario of 2008, but it's just 10 times worse, the bubble that they're heading towards. And for the first time ever, China has essentially done worse than Japan. Similar to what Japan saw basically in 1990s, it also confirmed that Japan had still not recovered from their collapse, essentially 25 plus years later. The report noted that China's current population dynamics are similar to Japan's in the 1990s. The firm revealed that 39% of Chinese populations will be over retirement age in 2050. The publication also confirmed that 45% of Chinese populations will be aged 65 or older, up from the 13% in 2010. The report also suggested that the increase in population stemmed from the abolishment of one-child policies in 2016. The report also claimed that the rise in population had caused a collapse in Chinese real estate. It specified that Chinese real estate had destroyed $18 trillion of Chinese, essentially, household wealth since 2021. The research that also came out today compared China's real estate crash to the US 2008 real estate crash, which essentially equal to a $17 trillion market crash if you adjust it by today's prices and current inflation. The report confirmed that markets had not crashed, causing a 2008-like event in China that led to the ripple effects around the world. The report also mentioned that instead China and the US are in a polar opposite situation. The CEIC data revealed that China's foreign exchange reserves dropped by $64 billion last month, representing a 2% of the country's total stash. JP Morgan's analyst also indicated today that the sharp drop resulted from Beijing's efforts to mitigate capital outflows in December. Barclays Bank, for example, economists also pushed out their forecast for the next BOJ interest rate hikes from January to March and the timing of the essentially increase from July to October. The report revealed that consumer confidence in China had collapsed. Consumer confidence in China has collapsed. And even the scientists could not help revive it any sort of a way. Now, China's package is what they're talking about. Chinese government has introduced the idea of they're going to be flooding the market with new cash flows. And it's a package. They've created a $1 trillion package to boost the Chinese economy. But apparently to the report that's came out today, even that special money flowing package that China has introduced is not going to be helping the Chinese economy in any sort of a way. And China could still be headed towards a major economic bubble, real estate bubble, that if bursted, could be a $20 trillion collapse. And even essentially the package, and the country of China has rolled out a $1.4 trillion package for the central government to take on the debts of local governments and essentially promised more monetary essentially packages in 2025. The firm also wrote that consumer confidence in China fell by 50 points over the last 3 years to 30-year lows. The publication noted that such a drop in consumer assessments of the Chinese economy had never been experienced before. The situation that China is in right now, they've never experienced it, and they really haven't. Their bubble is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and at one point it does have to burst. They can sidestep it, but it's not looking good for them. The report also mentioned that the drop in consumer confidence had weakened the Chinese yuan, which has resulted in another crisis within a crisis. Do you know why the Chinese yuan getting weakened is a crisis within a crisis? Well, because Russia's been sanctioned for a while, Russia has been aiming to just keep on buying Chinese yuan and holding it alongside the US dollars, which means Russia, by the way, is also started going through some economic bubble crisis situation as well. And Russia is holding a substantial amount of Chinese yuan, which means if China goes downhill because their bubble for their economic, essentially real estate space is going to burst, if China starts going downhill because of an economic crisis, Russia is going to go downhill with them. And that's also going to be causing some sort of domino effect with any other country that's working alongside Russia, or any other country that has recently brought the Chinese yuan at a substantial amount. All the BRICS nations that are holding a huge amount of Chinese yuan will be affected if China starts swinging downhill. So that's what the crisis within a crisis situation is going to be. Because for a while now, China has been pushing the idea of BRICS, while they know for a fact that their economy is not doing too well in any sort of a way. And it kind of seems similar to the idea of 2008. Because in 2008, essentially when the US was having a real estate issue, the banks knew but didn't bother doing anything about it. And they told everybody that the economy is doing excellent. And people believed the idea that in 2008, the economy was doing excellent. But instead, the bankers were giving out properties, as I said, like they were giving out free samples. And they gave out way too many properties to people that couldn't really afford to pay them, which caused a massive situation. And it's the same scenario here where China has went around, spoke about BRICS, told everybody to join BRICS, told everybody to essentially buy Chinese yuan because BRICS is, you know, the new thing that's coming around. While China knew that their economy is going through an economic crisis and a bubble that could burst any time, which is going to be 10 times worse than the 2008 crisis. They sold a perception of an idea that didn't exist, that the Chinese economy is strong, that the Chinese economy can move forward and be the strong leader for everybody. But in fact, the Chinese economy is in turmoil. It's going through a massive bubble that's 10 times bigger than 2008. And every country, including BRICS countries, that essentially paid and brought a substantial amount of Chinese yuan are going to feel the burn when China starts sliding downhill. So regarding the crisis within the crisis, the firm disclosed that the Chinese yuan has nearly reached its weakest levels against the US dollar since 2007. Today, comparing the Chinese yuan to the US dollars, the Chinese yuan has slided so far down, it's reaching 2007 situations. The publication argued that the currency markets are trading China is its own modern-day 2008 real estate collapse. The report noted that China's real estate collapse might be the reason the country is stockpiling up on gold reserves. Remember the time period where China, Russia, India, the BRICS nations were buying a substantial amount of gold. It was all over the news a year back when BRICS was starting to, you know, simmer. All we heard on the news was China buying huge amounts of gold, Russia buying huge amounts of gold, India buying huge amounts of gold, South Africa buying huge amounts of gold, and in general, Brazil buying huge amounts of gold as well. The BRICS nations in general were buying a huge amount of gold. That's all we heard on the news. And then fast forward that to today, the report is suggesting that the reason why China was particularly buying huge amounts of gold is because China knows that they're heading towards this bubble crisis situation, and they thought maybe they can, you know, resolve some of it by having a huge stockpile of gold. And the firm also confirmed that the world's second largest economy held a record of 73 million fine troy ounces of gold. The publication also revealed that the implementation of China's real estate collapse would spread beyond the country's real estate market. The letter also stated that it expected more volatility in the market in 2025. So, as this year continues forward, with essentially the US becoming a capital crypto hub, with the US having rules and regulations, and Donald Trump, you know, expanding, bringing innovation inside the US, and so on, China, on the other hand, is going to be feeling the pressure. Now, the relationship, what relates to cryptocurrency in this whole scenario? Because we already know talking about the cryptocurrency markets. So where's the relevance to crypto, the Chinese economy going downhill, a possibility of going, highly possibility of going downhill? Well, the more essentially it's noticed that China's economy is not going to be doing too well, the more they're going to be hedging against that scenario. And also, it would mean that China would need liquidity. Now, the only thing that could provide liquidity to China is going to be an alternative, essentially, currency, an alternative project or so on. And it could be any project inside the blockchain space. It could be China going for Bitcoin, essentially, to store up value, or China going for XRP in terms of payments or whatever. But China will need money fast. The crypto space can give China money fast. And every other country that's going to feel like a domino effect because of China's situation is going to be positive for the crypto space. So China going negative is actually a positive for the crypto space. It might seem like a negative the moment the Chinese economy might collapse, but afterwards it'll be a positive. But if it gets priced in, then it's going to be a positive off the bat. But yeah, the tables are turning again. So this whole BRICS scenario is not going to go down really well if China, their biggest player, is broke. Now, essentially moving away from China's situation right now, which is getting worse by the second. And Donald Trump also coming in, trying to put tariffs on China isn't going to really be helping China's economy in any sort of a way. But, China hasn't been paying their fair share, which makes sense. Now, let's go inside the comment section first before we go through the next news, which is regarding a crypto bank based out of the US. And then we go straight into the next news. As I said previously, this is a live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's see what's going inside the comment section. Just thought it might be good advice for some small investors and XRP holders. Yes, it definitely is advice, I'll be honest. Even Miles of CMF, Manny, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? They lowered it because the price began to rise. Why would they raise it when the price raises more? Regarding XRP being lowered from 10 XRP to having a wallet to 1 XRP because they wanted more people inside of XRP, true. But if banks and institutions get involved, and we'll talk about a substantial amount of essentially banks being involved, then there's a possibility that they can raise it if they wanted to. The question is, can they raise it if they want to? Yes. Are they going to raise it? Time will tell. For the time being, they're not raising in any sort of a way, is what I would say. Greetings, Miles and family. Good to see you as well. Ray, how you doing? How you been? Russia has the Dutch disease. That's why the ruble is crashing, and it takes the BRICS coins with it. Yes, but to be fairly honest, I said for the longest time, BRICS is never going to work. And a lot of people assume if BRICS doesn't work out, it's bad for XRP. It's not. If BRICS doesn't work out, it's not bad for XRP in any sort of a way. And I've said this multiple times as well, but BRICS existing or BRICS not existing in any sort of a way, it's XRP is still going to thrive. So it doesn't really matter. But I've always said for the longest time, BRICS isn't going to really work out. There's no way in hell that the US is going to sit on the sidelines and let Russia and China take the lead. How we know when to sell coins, and you recommend sale of XRP, XLM, XDC, or not sell them in any sort of way? Well, how you know when to sell? Well, if you're in huge amounts of profits, it's never a bad idea to take profits if you want to. If you don't want to sell, you want to go the long-term play, you can't borrow against your crypto assets, obviously, to skip on tax. But there are multiple ways. But when the time comes, I'll be informing people on what I'm going to be personally doing. And if you want, you can follow my footsteps. Obviously, none of that is financial advice in any sort of a way. But there's also, stuff inside the Telegram group is all just completely free for anybody to read if they want to check out when to sell. There's 8 types of ways to sell your crypto assets for profits. I made 59 on XRP today. Let's go, Caleb. Miles, do you speak about that Wombats? No. I keep all my XRP, Caleb. Let's go. I'm not selling any of my XRP. I'm in the same boat. I'm personally not going to be selling any of my XRP in this sort of way. Ray, good to see you as well. Greetings, brother. I just read your message now. Apologies about that. Good to see you as well, Ray. How you doing? Regarding XRP and so on, XLM, XDC, and H1 and so on, I'm personally not going to be selling either. I'm in the same boat as well. I'm just going to be borrowing against them, use them as collateral. I'm all in on XRP, XLM, XDC, H1, ACH, financial stability. Let's go, Scott. Miles, I'm thinking of reducing my portfolio from 36 tokens to maybe just 10 different projects. I think it will be easier to manage. I agree 100%. If you do have a very large portfolio, for example, I'm trying to reduce my large portfolio as well. If you do have a large portfolio and you're thinking about reducing it to about 10 crypto projects, for example, it's not a bad idea. If you want to do that, it's not a bad idea. Obviously, having the financial projects within those 10 crypto projects you want to be holding, and then whatever else you want to be holding alongside it. So, if you do have 36 tokens you're holding, 36 different types of projects, and you want to reduce that to 10, only 10 projects moving forward, it's not a bad idea if you want to do it. Because on the regulations that we're going to be getting, the US bringing out regulations, and the rest of jurisdictions around the world also bringing regulations in. A lot of projects aren't going to be doing too well on the regulations, whereas projects like the financial projects and tokenization projects that are also financial projects, or Web3 data and so on, there's certain categories and certain projects will do the best on the regulations. Makes sense if you want to do that. Sold XRP is a good idea, in my opinion. 10 projects out of the 36. Sold 3,000 XRP and paid off truck. Still have a bag. Let's go Semper. Why not? If you do want to sell off your assets, if you're selling on profits, it's never a bad idea to take profits and, pay off bills or, in this case, pay off the truck. Let's go. If ISO 2022 was planned years ago, why would the elites let XRP, for example, be cheap for so long and let us normal people be rich? Great question. So this is a question that does get asked quite a lot inside the crypto space. People always talk about if XRP is, the chosen project, why did the elites let you get, rich? Why they kept XRP's price so low to let the regular folks get wealthy from XRP? It doesn't make any sense, is what people, always think to themselves. It doesn't make any sense on, if this was all planned, if the digital world was all planned, the ISO tokens were planned, this whole moving into CBDCs, everything about blockchain is all planned. It doesn't make any sense, is what people assume, on why would they let XRP be so cheap for regular folks to get wealthy from. First of all, the percentage of people that are actually holding XRP from the retail section is very, very low. Second of all, what makes you think people inside the retail section are going to be holding on to these $10,000 price tags per XRP or $100,000 price tags per XRP? The retail section will probably jump out of XRP at $10. And they couldn't care less if you made money or not, because they know that the majority of retail section, about 99.9% of the retail section, doesn't have the kahunas to hold on until the last step. They know that the majority of the retail section will sell at $10. And there ain't that many people from the retail section that are holding a substantial amount of XRP. So the reason is why would they let people get rich from XRP? They couldn't care less if you got rich from XRP, and they couldn't care less if you essentially held on for that long, because they know, first of all, you won't hold on for that long. They know that the majority of the retail section will probably jump out of around $5 or $10. And the same question could apply to Bitcoin. They let so many people get wealthy from Bitcoin. They let so many people get wealthy from Ethereum. They let so many people from the retail section get wealthy from Solana. They let so many people from the retail section get wealthy from AVAX. They let so many people from the retail section get wealthy from the majority of crypto assets. They let so many people get wealthy from meme coins inside the crypto section. But why is it when it comes to XRP, everybody always goes, why would the elites let people get wealthy from XRP? It's the same reason that they let people get wealthy from Bitcoin from the retail section. It's the same reason why they let people from Ethereum get rich from essentially holding Ethereum from the retail section. Same reason why they let people from Solana get rich from the retail section. Same reason why they let Luna, essentially when it was working, or same reason why they let Neo, or essentially called on any crypto project. The same reason why they let any other person from the retail section get wealthy from any other crypto project is the exact same reason why they're going to let you get wealthy from XRP. I don't know why the question always has to become some sort of a special question when it comes to XRP. Don't think too much about it. The elites couldn't care less if you got wealthy or not. They couldn't care less, because they know that you can't maintain that wealth. They know that the majority of the retail section can never maintain wealth properly. They know that the majority of the retail section will jump out at $5 for XRP or $10 and so on. But yeah, it always becomes a special question when it's around XRP, but same question could be applied to any crypto projects. Why would they let you get wealthy from Ethereum, Bitcoin, Solana? Same reason why they will let you get wealthy from XRP. I saw. But yeah, thanks for explaining. No problem, Harris, anytime. Yeah, which sell ACH and Link? Would I sell ACH token and Link and for profit? Yes, definitely. I brought 30,000 worth of SafeMoon. Billionaires in essentially 3 years will watch. You bought 30,000 worth of SafeMoon in 2025. I don't believe it. SafeMoon. Miles, I remember the SafeMoon as well. Miles, will you help us with reducing our portfolios? I mean, give us suggestions. Yes, definitely. I will 100%. I've always been helping. And Miles, my biggest bags are all financial tokens, all the X's and H1 ACH enough. Excellent. It's good to go. I'll be very honest. Very excellent. I sold my XRP and brought more XRP. Let's go, Chosen. Regular people buy Bitcoin $10 and sold 100. XRP say most will essentially sell. I agree. The retailer is not giving up his XRP. The smart individuals who are holding XRP from the retail section, facts, they won't be giving up. But if some people do want to sell their XRP, is, why not? If you do want to sell for profit-wise and pay off your bills or so on, that's always understandable. Diamond Hands, let's go simple. XRP is a utility, and the goal isn't to gain the retail group. I agree 100%, which is why they couldn't care less about the retail section. Big institutions, I agree with you, Wando. 100%. Big institutions will become in with about 10 to 15 trillion, and they know majority of the retail section will be long gone. I agree also 100%. Thanks, Oxane. Let's go, Harris. A bit off topic, but I wanted to ask. Sure, go ahead. So a bit off topic, but I wanted to ask. My OKX wallet holds some USDT, and I have a seed phrase. Okay. So that is not a real person. Okay, there's a person inside the comment section right now, which I need to warn everybody about. There's a person inside the comment section, and that is not a real person. I've just blocked that person. That's not a real person. That is a scammer or a hacker or a bot. And I'm seeing this scam more often nowadays than ever before. So here is a warning that you don't fall for this scam. There are people who put comments under posts on X, Instagram, TikTok, or so on. And they'll write something on the lines of, I've lost access to my wallet, but here is my seed phrase. Can everybody help me? And they write they type their seed phrases out. Or they say, I'm having difficulty moving my assets. Here is my seed phrases. Can somebody help me? Or in this case, they write a bit off topic, but I wanted to ask my OKX wallet holds some USDT, and I have the seed phrases, and the seed phrases are pledge, spread, fantasy, slide, novel, avocado, iron, whatever. It's a real wallet, but it's a scam wallet. So what these scammers want is victims to type in these seed phrases, thinking they're going to be connecting to a wallet that's full of USDT or whatever. And in reality, when you go to empty that wallet, they will empty your wallet. So please do not fall for this new scam that's going around. I've been seeing it happening for quite a bit now, and I always delete these types of comments. When anybody puts a scam comment under any of my posts, I always delete it instantly so nobody falls for that scam. But that's a new scam that's going around, where it's an old scam that's resurfaced again. So it's when people put a random situation, they go, I've lost access to my wallet, but here's my seed phrase, and they type out, the seed phrases, and they say, can anybody help me, and so on. That's a scammer. They're hoping somebody falls for their tricks and types in the seed phrases, and then tries to, and you think to yourself, oh, free money, somebody put their seed phrases online, I'm going to empty their wallet. And then you go to type in their seed phrases thinking you're going to empty their wallet. They end up emptying your wallet when you connect to their wallet as a smart contract. So please don't fall for that scam in any sort of a way. Yeah, but that's not a real person. Even influencers, so please be careful about that scam inside the crypto space. Never type in random seed phrases that anybody posts online. Even influencers sold their XRP last year when they saw the projects doing 5 and 10x. While XRP wasn't moving, they were saying it's useless project. Yeah, I remember that. I remember those times. Big institutions look at 10 to 15 years long term, and retail looks at 6 months. Facts. Good evening, Mouse. Sorry, late on tonight. Hope I've not missed too much, mate. Adi, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? You're still good, but you missed quite a little bit, yes. But you're still good. Good to see you, Adi. How you doing? But if XRP do better than the last bull run, which was 1,600%, it will be more than $10 easy. People will hold. You'd be surprised. Most won't. Some will. The intelligent will hold, and the people that sell will either sell for bills or sell for profits. Yes, Miles, you have always helped me. I did not want to take it you for granted, so I asked out of respect. Thank you, Scott, for asking out of respect. But yeah, I'm always here to help you out, Scott. No problem. Always here. I've blocked in Miles. Thank you, Shelley. Thoughts on Ava? Thoughts on Ava? It's an all right project. I wouldn't say it's a must-have in any sort of a way. In my opinion, it's an all right project. Hey there. My name is. How you doing, George? How you doing? Thanks for addressing the scammers, Miles. No problem, Scott. Anytime. How will they empty our wallet without knowing our seed phrases, Miles? Because if you connect to their wallet, so you go to empty their wallet, if you connect to a scammer's wallet, there's a smart contract there where the moment you connect your wallet, the smart contract will be activated, which will essentially reverse and empty your wallet instead into theirs. Miles, is scan QR code and adverts safe? No. It says they give us free coins. No, there's no such thing as free money. Capitalism creates a class system whereby wealth is concentrated in the hands of the few very powerful capitalists. In 2017, the 1% grabbed 82% of the wealth. How is that justifiable? When resources dwindle, how are we going to tolerate the excuses of the 1% while the rest of us are left to suffer in the wake of the destructive climate change? Rulers won't matter. Capitalism seems to always move easier than people, harder than time escaping violence, and the capitalists are hiding their money in the Caribbean. No nations, no borders, or solidarity. Your thoughts on essentially, look, what I would say to George, essentially, who's just going back to back. Thank you, appreciate the reply. No problem, Banner, anytime. Okay, how's I can't block this guy? Now, Shelly, I've already done it. His comments keep on coming up, even though I've blocked him. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there, but I was able to stop it. He did say that he was a master hoster. Yeah. What do you think, ENA? ENA, I don't know what the recent developments are. I would have to look into it to give you a better perspective on that matter. Miles is right. Embarrassingly, before I joined the CMF, I was taken for $1,000 through an airdrop. I remember that, Scott. You told me. Yeah. Now, what we're going to be talking about next is a bank. In the US, it's, crypto banks had a living hell situation under Biden's administration, which was still under until January 20th when Trump takes his seat. But it also does seem like slowly, the US is becoming a bit more friendlier towards blockchain technology. And a lot of things have essentially unraveled, with especially the FDIC stifling essentially banks inside the United States, working with blockchain projects and so on. And a lot of things have been unraveled, and that's in that matter. And it does seem like the US is becoming a bit more crypto friendly as we're getting close to a Trump presidency. Here is one example of how the US is getting a bit friendly towards blockchain projects. A crypto-friendly custodian bank achieves a SOC2 type compliance certification. Custodian Bank, a crypto-friendly Wyoming-based bank, has achieved a major milestone in its security controls by obtaining a certification as a system of an organization controls two compliant banks. Today, it was announced that Custodian Bank announced it had achieved the SOC2 Type 2, adding to its earlier milestone of essentially completing the Type 1 audit. The SOC2 is a cybersecurity compliance framework by the American Institution of Certified Public Accountants that provides an audit and reports the organizations of internal security controls. The main goal is to assess a service essentially provider's capacity to safely store and process client data. It's a major certification for technological companies as well, and founded essentially by the Bitcoin advocates and investors. Catalan Long, also custodian, is a state-chartered bank focused on digital assets in terms of banking payments and a custodian solution for the US commercial customers. It is unusual for banks in the US to obtain this type of certifications. which custodial has done today, and only a small number of US banks typically seek them. Custodian's chief executive officer, Catalin Long, said, but as the gold standard for, but it is essentially the gold standard for technology companies and security controls. SOC Type 2 type certifications are critical for serving the most tech-forward clients. Custodia is proud to have obtained both the Type 1 and Type 2 certifications. Custodia Bank, which has battled for traction in the beginning, essentially on the banking space, despite a challenging regulatory environment, said in its announcements that the SOC Type 2 certification showcases commitments to data security. The certification reflects the bank's dedication to the highest security standards, as well as a focus on availability and confidentiality. Custodia has sued the Federal Reserve in June 2022 over the complaints and related to its applications for a master account with the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City. A master account essentially allows banks direct access to the Federal Reserve rather than going through an intermediary bank. Custodia lost its initial lawsuit in March 2024, but filed an appeal. Look, Custodia Bank has had a very difficult life inside the US. First of all, they were rejected to connect to the banking system of the US, and they tried to go through the courts, which the judge essentially ruled in the favor of the Fed and not this particular one bank. The Fed is supposed to essentially be able to connect this bank to the rest of the banking systems of the US, but they didn't want to because it's a blockchain bank. They blatantly didn't say it's a blockchain bank, but that is mainly the reason why they rejected. Second of all, this bank has just achieved something that was extremely difficult to achieve in the US, especially not being connected to a banking system, which is to become a big player in a digital world that we're heading towards, which is keeping people's data and assets safe. This bank now has that certificate. This bank would have never been able to achieve this type of milestone if we're going towards a Kamala Harris presidency. But thank God we're going towards a Donald Trump presidency, because we're already starting to see the positiveness even before Trump takes his seat. Because that particular bank was being, crucified for being a blockchain bank. But now it's moving ahead, getting some sort of licensing, getting a milestone license above regular banks. Things are moving. And these are basically signs that the US is warming up to the idea of we're going towards this digital world now, and you have to be on board. Now, moving on essentially from the announcement that was made by this bank to Gary Gensler, sticking to the relative topic of the US being stifled. Gary Gensler, SEC chairman. Now, everybody inside the crypto space right now is counting the days. And I mean, there are people inside the crypto space that are counting seconds, never mind days, until Gary Gensler leaves office January 20th. And Gary Gensler has made his last speech, apparently. Knowing Gary Gensler is probably going to make another speech, but for the time being, Gary Gensler has claimed that this is his last speech as the SEC chairman. And is it going to be a positive speech? Probably not. So here it is. SEC chairman Gary Gensler makes one of his last statements before stepping down. Again, talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. So here it is. Just to point out, it is the most, now this isn't a whole speech, it's, parts taken out of the speech, it's like paragraphs taken out of the speech, but it is the most hypocritical speech I've ever seen in my entire life, coming from a politician, or coming from, in this case, a chairman of an SEC. The US Securities and Exchange Commission chairman Gary Gensler shared his views on his tenure and the future of crypto that he will not be a part of. So here in a recent interview with Bloomberg Markets, Gensler, who will leave his post on January 20th, 2025, this year, discussed the challenges and successes of his time at the helm of the SEC, particularly overseeing a $120 trillion capital market and regulating the rapidly evolving cryptocurrency sector. Gensler, who called his role a privilege and emphasized the SEC's mission to protect everyday investors and ensure fair and transparent markets. Ensure fair, key word here, At what point was Gary Gensler fair to the crypto space? Never. At what point was essentially Gary Gensler transparent to the crypto space? Also never. But that is what his speech says. It goes on to say, what we do here, this is his actual speech. He says, what we do here is to protect everyday Americans, people trying to save for a better future. They are facts. To be fairly honest, everybody around the world from the retail section is trying to save for a better future. But Gary Gensler, knowing that, his job is to protect Americans and help Americans save money for a better future, stifled an entire industry where the retail section was the majority of in it, who were trying to make a profit. And Gary Gensler wouldn't let anybody from the retail section make a profit from the crypto space from legitimate assets. But here he is making a speech saying, what we do here is to protect everyday Americans and people trying to save for a better future. He said, highlighting initiatives such as shortening the stock market payout cycles and enforcing rules to protect personal data. During Gensler's tenure, there has been also a significant focus on cryptocurrencies, an industry he once likened to the Wild West. It's regulated essentially under his leadership. The SEC has intensified its regulatory scrutiny, filing more than 100 crypto-related enforcement actions, on top of the 80 cases initiated by the president, by people essentially before him, and Jay Clinton. Despite these efforts, Gary Gensler noted that the industry remains rife with non-compliance and bad actors. Well, I am confirmed one bad actor inside the crypto space is definitely leaving forever. And that one bad actor, in my opinion, is also the main bad actor inside the crypto space, is Gary Gensler himself. Bitcoin accounts, this is another part of his speech. Bitcoin accounts for 2/3 to 80% of the value of the crypto markets. But beyond that, there are 10,000 to 15,000 projects, many of which will not survive. I agree on this point. For once in his life, Gary Gensler has mentioned something intelligent, that the majority of crypto projects won't last, obviously, under rules and regulations. He said Gensler also noted that the speculative nature of cryptocurrencies, citing their limited fundamentals and vulnerabilities to pump and dump schemes. Yes, meme coins will not be having a good chance of survival under rules and regulations. That should be common sense. Now, there might be a few meme coins that might squeeze past the barrier of regulations. In my personal opinion, the only meme coins that will pretty much survive any sort of rules and regulations will be Dogecoin. Dogecoin, in my opinion, will survive rules and regulations as a meme coin. Shiba Inu will survive essentially as a meme coin on the rules and regulations. Luna C will survive on the rules and regulations as well. That's pretty much it, to be fairly honest. There might be a few other ones as well, just one or two more. High profile cases, which is better off if you're in legitimate crypto assets, obviously, rather than those few speculative ones. Now, high profile cases such as those involving Sam Bankman-Fried and other industry figures have resulted in billions in losses for investors. Gensler expressed pride in the SEC's enforcement essentially efforts, while acknowledging that there is still work to be done, particularly when it comes to altcoins and brokerages. Gary Gensler, who described how he transitioned from essentially academics to regulatory leadership, addressed perceptions that might be to the crypto advocates because of his work at MIT. When you're in essentially education, you can study and teach about the value propositions of new technologies, he said. But in his job, you're sworn to protect the investing public, and that means addressing challenges and non-compliance. Look, Gary Gensler's last speech, in his words, is his last speech, very different to what the CFTC said, because Rostam Benham is also leaving on January 20th. Gary Gensler leaves January 20th as the SEC chairman, and the CFTC chairman, Rostam Benham, is also leaving on January 20th. Same time, they're both leaving and resigning. But Rostam Benham's speech was more like on the lines of, he hopes the crypto space will thrive on the rules and regulations, and America brings in innovation. So it was all positive, and he's still leaving as a chairman. And Gary Gensler, as always, being stubborn and annoying, And talking about transparency and fairness inside the market space, two things he was never with the crypto space. Gary Gensler was never transparent with the crypto space, all the retail section inside the crypto space, and he was never fair to crypto projects or the retail section. Gary Gensler will essentially open his arms and his office doors to any blockchain project and say welcome. And then the next day, Gary Gensler will send them a Wells notice and try to sue them. The only good thing I can say about this whole Gary Gensler situation is that January 20th, he's resigning. That man achieved nothing inside the crypto space. And I mean nothing. Now, Fidelity is what we're going to talk about next. Fidelity expects governments and nation states to start adding Bitcoin to their portfolios. But before essentially we talk about that news, let's go inside the comment section first. Before we talk about Fidelity, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is a live, which means if you do have any questions, put it outside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer the questions you may have. So let's see where we're at. And then we'll go straight into the next question. Miles, when XRP $10, give it time. We're not that far off, to be fairly honest. I lost 120,000 to two companies who were based in Tel Aviv, in Israel back in 2016, named Bank the Binary and Secured Options, who posed essentially as a UK-based companies. It's a life, you learn from it and move on and never make the same mistake again. Pepe, yeah, I mean, it's true. It is life. You learn from your mistakes and you'll never make bad investments again. But don't worry, you'll make a lot more money inside the blockchain space. You'll forget about the £120,000 you lost. Pep and with surviving as well. Is Pepe and Dog with Hat, is the with one, is going to be surviving? Maybe. Look, I'll be honest. The only reason projects like Shiba Inu have existed for this long, the only reason projects like Lunacy have existed for this long, Pepe, reasons why Pepe has existed this long and so on, it's for washing. It's the only reason. The only reason Shiba Inu has existed this long is for washing. The only reason essentially Pepe has essentially lasted this long is also for washing as well. Because it will get very difficult to wash a certain amount in, XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, Solana, so on. It will get difficult at one point to be able to wash a very large amount of money on those types of projects. But in Shiba Inu or essentially Pepe or Dog with Hat or so on, it's easier to wash. So that is what mainly these projects are used for, which means they will stick around because, the world operates on two types of money. There's two types of money that's spent around this world. There's one that's on paper and there's one that is not on paper. The money that's on paper is going to spin around the world in legitimate assets. The money that's not on paper is going to be spinning around the world somewhere else. It's going to be spinning around the world in projects like Shiba Inu and Pepe to wash, and then when they are clean, they're going to be spinning around in legitimate crypto assets. There's a process to it, but that is the only reason that those projects exist. The only reason that Shiba Inu or Pepe or these, random projects that somehow, as a meme coin, they make it so far. Shiba Inu comes out of nowhere and gets all of a sudden listed on all types of exchanges and so on. Or essentially, Pepe comes out of nowhere and is listed on Binance Exchange now, and everybody could buy into it and so on a long time ago when it was released. So the reason why these, out of 25,000 meme coins that are created every day, one or two just break out somehow and bring substantial amount of money to the table. They get listed on every exchange out there, possibly, yes, because they're washing. But now you know. Gary Gensler is a man that you want to see next Tuesday. Yes, facts. Funky brother, absolutely. Can you teach us how to wash for when the time is right? Can I teach you how to wash for when the time is right? No. I would suggest the shower. Now, Fidelity expects Fidelity expects governments and nation states to start adding Bitcoin to their portfolios. Is what we're going to talk about next. Fidelity is calling it governments and nation states are about to get serious about Bitcoin. In a new report that just came out today from Fidelity, the investment giant predicts a new chapter in Bitcoin treasury, one where central banks and treasuries step up as big investors. Spot Bitcoin exchange traded ETFs made their debuts in 2024, and they're essentially being nothing short of a game changer by making Bitcoin accessible to both institutions and retail investors. These regulated, essentially, financial tools have been opened, essentially have the floodgates have been opened. And pension funds and endowments were among the first to take the plunge. Now Fidelity says that the next logical step is nation states. Is basically also what's happening. Nation states in America are essentially coming forward. For example, Texas, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and so on. They're all coming forward one by one to say they want to create some sort of a Bitcoin essentially portfolio, or someone saying they want to create the crypto portfolio. The shift isn't coming out of nowhere though. Crypto President Donald Trump is about to take back the White House, and some governments already have Bitcoin on their books, though not always intentionally. America holds roughly about 198,109 Bitcoins, worth about $20.1 billion. China isn't far behind with 190,000 Bitcoins valued at $19.2 billion, and the United Kingdom has 61,254 Bitcoins. Ukraine has about 46,351 Bitcoins. Bhutan has about 11,688 Bitcoins. El Salvador has about 5,961 Bitcoins. Most of these Bitcoins wasn't brought, it was actually seized. Governments often essentially, in terms of Bitcoin, in terms of criminal investigations, confiscate these types of assets. And regulations require auction of rather than keeping it. So while these countries technically hold Bitcoin, they haven't made the decisions to use it as a treasury asset yet in any sort of a way. Fidelity believes that 2025 could be the year this changes. Here's where it gets interesting. Governments won't shout from the roof. The governments won't be shouting from the rooftops about their Bitcoin buyings, according to Fidelity. Any country seriously planning to stack sits essentially while doing it quietly. Why? Because announcing their intentions would spike demand, driving up Bitcoin's price and making creation even harder. This is geopolitics, essentially meets crypto games theory. The US, of course, would lead the charge. Trump's and seniors such as Cynthia Luminous have both floated the idea of a national Bitcoin reserve. Luminous essentially even introduced the Bitcoin Act in 2024, wanting to formalize the government's Bitcoin holdings. If the bill pleases, other countries will feel compelled to follow in suit as usual. Tokenization is quietly taking over Wall Street as well. In 2024, the value of tokenized real-world assets, think treasuries, money market funds, and commodities, hits $14 billion, doubling from its previous year. And Fidelity predicts this number could reach $30 billion by the end of 2025. Tokenization is more than a buzzword, it's becoming a practical tool. Take California, for example. The state's Department of Motor Vehicles has digitalized 42 million car titles using Avalanche's blockchain. And meanwhile, projects like Story Protocol are exploring how blockchain can transform intellectual property management. Big banks and asset managers are also jumping on the bandwagon of tokenization train, putting bonds, credits, and funds on distributed ledgers. The benefits are clear: faster transactions, greater transparency, and reduced costs. Fidelity expects this trend to accelerate, pushing tokenized assets further into the mainstream, and the total value locked TLV essentially in DeFi lending markets reached $55 billion by the end of 2024, more than doubling from $22 billion in the year before. And Bitcoin's status as a pristine, scarce asset makes it ideal collateral for these types of markets. Traditional financial institutions are taking notice. Catanor Thingsgold, a legacy player in finance, launched a Bitcoin lending business in 2024 with $2 billion in initial fundings. The goal is to provide leverage to Bitcoin holders, bridging the gap between crypto and traditional finance. This kind of institutional involvements could make Bitcoin lending more accessible and reliable. Of course, challenges remain, and where the same asset is used as collateral for multiple loans is a big one. Collateralized lenders also have struggled with trust issues, but establishment, essentially in terms of financial institutions, might have the clout to address these concerns. Fidelity believes the markets will find ways to balance innovation with security and driving further adoption. I agree with what essentially Fidelity has came out with today, talking about how every nation inside the United States is going to be coming out, every state is going to be coming out with some sort of Bitcoin or crypto portfolio. It is something that we're seeing quite a lot now, because a lot of states are coming out in the US and announcing these matters. Also because a lot of politicians are pro-crypto, but also because we're getting a pro-crypto president of the United States, which is incredible. Everything essentially Fidelity came out with today, speaking about the market space, speaking about what they see going forward and how the future is, starting in 2025. This year, everything is going to be changing for the better. Last year was all about paperwork and some ETF releases. Yes, last year was the start of the world shifting into digital space with all the documentations and contracts in place and licensing. There's all the paperwork. The paperwork year was last year. This year is about essentially the regulation part and the utility part, which is leading to the adoption part. And yeah, we're definitely going to see that. So 100% I believe what everything Fidelity has just said. Now, moving on essentially from Fidelity, talking about the positive things we're going to be seeing in this year, to Revolute Bank. Now, if you don't know what Revolute Bank is, it's just a money, it's a digital bank that's online, essentially no branches in any sort of a way. And the UK bank, essentially Revolute Bank, has the UK-based essentially digital bank, has announced today that they've partnered with blockchain projects. Now, they didn't partner with blockchain projects for payments, but they partnered with blockchain projects for data. And here is the crypto project they've chosen for data purposes. Digital banking giant Revolute Bank has joined Python Network. Now, Python Network is also a crypto project I announced when it was day one, when they opened their doors. It was the same time around Ondo. Revolut, the UK-based digital banking giant, is the latest company to join the Python Network as a data publisher. The partnership between the Financial Conduct Authority regulated neobanks and Python Network means that Revolut will now contribute its price data to the blockchain-based Coral network, benefiting from the growing decentralized finance ecosystem. Revolut Bank's integration with Python comes as the gap between traditional finance and DeFi continues to narrow. This trend has gained traction aimed at increasing adoption of blockchain technology across financial technology and related ecosystems. The Python Network's Coral solution plays a key role in this evolution as the platform seeks to expand alongside industry giants like Chainlink. Both Coral networks aim to provide Web3 users essentially and institutions with enhanced transparency and reliability. And Mike, the Chief Executive Officer of Duro Labs and a contributor essentially to Python Network, highlighted the growing recognition of digital assets and DeFi within traditional finance. And Python's collaboration with Revolut is a part of a larger trend we're seeing where traditional banking institutions trusted by millions of customers globally are recognizing the value of decentralized finance and digital assets. Together, we are driving the future of finance where transparent and reliable data empowers the next generation of financial applications. As the data publisher on Python Network, Revolut will contribute to Python's price feeds, enhancing the security and reliability of decentralized applications. In turn, Python will leverage Revolut's market expertise to provide accurate and essentially dynamic price feeds to DApps, decentralized apps in other words. For Revolut, the partnership marks a significant step in expanding its presence in the Web3 space. Launched in 2015, Revolut has grown to over 45 million users and offers its services to 200 countries. Meanwhile, the Python network continues to expand with more than 120 data providers, over 590 price feeds, and integration across 450 essentially DApps. So the Python network essentially is now part of Revolut Bank, not for payments, but for data storage, essentially for data sharing, which is great news for anybody who is still holding Python, but also great news in general for the crypto space. the more, essentially this banking news connecting to blockchains in terms of data or payments or whatever, it's always great news for the crypto space because it brings more eyes on the crypto space, especially when it's a bank. And Revolut Bank is a big bank. In the neobank category, as in a digital bank, is a big bank. 45 million users it has pretty much. And it has access. The bank works with 200 essentially countries around the world, which is incredible. But yeah, Python network is now part of Revolut Bank in terms of data. Now, before we go for the next news, which is regarding essentially Bank of America, related to the banking field, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is a live, which means if you do have any questions, put it outside the comment section. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's see where we are at inside the comment section. Let's go, Carrie. Easy Max. Let's go, Funky Brother. The Python network offering data for pricing is similar to Chainlink is doing with XRP Ledger. Yes. Similar, yes. Is in the news today, Chinese and Russian ships cutting underwater internet cables. Yikes. PYTH network. Yes, that's the one shows up. Yeah, that's not good. If the Chinese and Russian essentially ships are cutting underwater internet cables, but then again, that is also a way for them to be able to implement offline CBDCs, which is what we talked about essentially a while ago as well, where there are multiple ways for the government to implement CBDCs. It's very easy, to brainwash the public, a lot more easier than you think. For example, now they're doing COVID 2.0. Everybody who went through COVID essentially wearing a mask, getting a vaccine, because either they were brainwashed or because they had to do it for their job, which is understandable if you had to do it for your job because you don't want to lose your job. You can't pay your bills. But we went through this whole COVID situation, and everybody said never again. Everybody's went through COVID, and everybody came out of COVID and said never again. How could I be fooled to wear a mask? To walk into a restaurant and take the mask off, eat, and then put the mask back on? Or how can I stand, how was I standing, 2 feet apart or 5 feet apart in an airport line to go on a plane to sit next to people millimeters away? How did that make any sort of sense, And the whole scenario was completely dumb. But they're again doing COVID 2.0. And once again, people will get brainwashed to stand 5 feet apart for them to just go into a restaurant, for example, sit next to the person next to them millimeters away, or stand 5 feet apart in an airport line for them to go on a plane while sitting millimeters away from the person next to them. But beforehand, they were standing 5 feet apart to keep the disease away, apparently. But then now you're sitting. So the whole scenario was just dumb. It was an experiment to see how dumb people really are. And it proved to be, that the majority of people on this planet are not very intelligent, which didn't really help the people that were intelligent because there weren't that many of us. Now, regarding China and Russia, if they are again cutting the internet cables, because even Iran threatened the idea of cutting internet cables, it's a good way for them to introduce offline CBDCs. Because if they cut the internet cables, what's happened now is that the majority of people are using online banking. The majority of people right now are using Apple Pay, Google Pay, or Samsung Pay. Rarely anybody uses cash or stores cash. Everybody uses online banking now, like mobile banking, which means if they cut the internet cables that they are cutting in most cases is the ones that's connected to the Western side, the Europe, the UK, and so on. And if they do cut the internet cables, everybody will lose access to the internet, basically, which means you will also lose access to your banking apps, which means you won't be able to access your money, which means you would need money, obviously, to pay rent, mortgage, loans, bills, or whatever. And you can't because you don't have access to your banking app. That's where all your money's at. That would be a great way for them to introduce the idea of online. Essentially, it would be a great way for governments or central banks to introduce the idea of offline CBDCs if the internet cables are cut. Honestly, there are multiple ways for them to introduce the idea of CBDCs. Obviously, the most fastest way to implement CBDCs would be to cause panic and then introduce a solution. By the way, the panic is created by the same people that introduced the solution. But yeah, so let's see what happens regarding the whole China situation, Russia situation. Everything's coordinated in this world, to be fairly honest. Russia and China are just playing their parts, just like every other country is as well. Now, but thank you for letting me know regarding that, Susie. Now, Miles, any thoughts on HOT and MDT? Well, Python network is the one you're typing in, so Python network is that one. Miles, any thoughts on HOT and MDT? They're both good for Web3 and data, in my opinion. Obviously, financial projects will still be ranking number one, but they're good for data projects and Web3 projects as well. They're both legitimate projects, in my opinion. Now, Bank of America. A perspective has came from a CEO. One particular CEO has came out and talked about how Bank of America has essentially introduced, Bank of America is working with one particular crypto asset. And that particular asset is XRP. So here it is. Bank of America taps XRP. XRP blockchain for internal payment system. So just domestic payments so far. According to a CEO of a sound planning group, David, who spoke to Fox Business, Bank of America is using XRP for all of its internal transactions. David stated on Fox News that XRP is used by Bank of America, and the bank has filed 83 patent applications for blockchain technology related to Ripple. Apparently, the Bank of America has filed in 83 patents on Ripple to use XRP. He referred to XRP as a key financial vehicle for the future. David's statements has generated considerable discussions in the XRP community, which views it as a possible indication of mainstream banking adoption of Ripple's payment tokens. Bank of America is a member of Ripple's RippleNet Governance Committee. This committee comprises global financial institutions such as Santander Bank and Standard Chartered Bank. The committee works to establish a standardized procedure for cross-border payments and systems powered by Ripple's blockchain technology. RippleNet allows seamless communications and settlements between institutions, which aligns with the Bank of America's interest in real-time payment solutions. The association strengthens the perceived link between Ripple and the banking giant. In addition, Bank of America has had its previous interest essentially on blockchain and applied for a patent for settlement systems that in some way reference a Ripple distributed ledger technology. This proposed system aimed to enable real-time essentially settlements and streamline interbank communications. Although the patent discussed a pre-funded Ripple statement, it did not explicitly refer to Ripple's payment token XRP. This patent demonstrates Bank of America's early interest to leverage decentralized ledger technology to improve payment processes. So the patents that essentially Bank of America has done include Ripple. There are 83, not 1, 2, or 10, 83 patents that Bank of America has done, all related to Ripple. Now, on those essentially patents, they have said, Bank of America has said that in the patents that there is a pre-funded account that Ripple has created for Bank of America. Now, they haven't said XRP, but if Ripple is going to be creating any bank or any institution a pre-funded account, what is Ripple going to fund them with? Because at that time, RLUSD didn't exist. So what is Ripple going to be pre-funding this account with and giving it to Bank of America to use in a digital world? Are they going to be pre-funding it with Solana? Are they going to be pre-funding it with AVAX, Ethereum? No, it's XRP. And it's just basic common sense at that point. Ripple's not going to be going around pre-funding accounts for essentially Cardano when they have their own token going around. And according to this CEO, they are using essentially XRP in terms of domestic payments. Bank of America is using XRP for domestic payments, not on a large scale in any sort of a way, but essentially in a small scale for domestic payments for the time being, according to the CEO. And the CEO did essentially a sit down with Fox Business talking about this. And he talked about how there are 83 patent applications for blockchain technology related to Ripple. Essentially, now Bank of America has been essentially doing these patents and so on. Incredible news, to be fairly honest. And on top of that, Ripple's president now confirms an XRP ETF is coming soon. Ripple's president, Monica Long, has now confirmed that XRP ETFs is coming soon this year amidst the growing cryptocurrency landscape. When asked about the possibilities of a spot XRP ETF by Bloomberg Crypto, Monica Long responded with, "I think we will see one very soon. I think we will see more various crypto spot ETFs this year coming out of the US, and I think XRP is likely to be next in line after Bitcoin and Ethereum." For XRP to have an ETF, it basically indicates that the XRP case will either be dismissed or settled this year, which it has to be. As I've said previously, there's nothing to go along on this case. And the person that was continuing this case was Gary Gensler. And Gary Gensler is now out of the picture January 20th, which means the Ripple case will either be dismissed or settled. And by this indication for Monica Long, not only is the case going to be dismissed or settled, but we're also going to be getting XRP ETFs. And by the way, there are so far 4 to 5 XRP ETF applications out there. There's going to be a hell of a lot more when this lawsuit gets dismissed or settled. There's already been a number of different companies like Canary and others who have filed for an XRP ETF. So we think, especially with the administration change of the SEC and the approvals of those filings will accelerate. The Ripple and the approvings for ETF applications will definitely accelerate because, as I explained yesterday, Paul Atkins essentially taking the SEC chairman's chairmanship from Gary Gensler. Paul Atkins, they're calling it the Atkins diet. A perspective coming in from Cynthia Lunas, where the reason why they're calling the strategy they're going to be using in the SEC the Atkins diet is because the SEC is going to be a lot more loose with the rules and regulations on crypto assets. Is going to let the crypto space innovate, which means we're going to be getting a lot more ETFs, which means filings will be done a lot more quicker. Essentially, the process of filings and so on will be done a lot more quicker. Makes sense why we're going to have a lot more ETFs. The Ripple president also retweeted how important RLUSD, Ripple's newly launched stablecoin, and XRP are to the numerous financial institutions and banks they are currently partnered with. One of them obviously being Bank of America, and it makes sense why Bank of America has been using a pre-funded account of XRP. Bank of America has recently made a bold move of XRP, as reports suggest that the bank is essentially executing internal transactions through XRP. A recent report from Fox Business that we just went through, essentially, and a little bit on that, this association made by David, the CEO of South Planning Group, suggests that the banking giant is executing 100% of its internal, essentially, transactions through XRP, which is incredible. During a segment on Fox Business and aired essentially on January 6th, the significant integration of XRP into a day-to-day operations of Bank of America, he noted essentially, and that XRP is going to be the track that everything runs on in the future. He confidently stated during the interview. During the interview, David, the CEO of this company, basically said that he's 100% confident that everything, and I mean everything, in the financial world will be running on XRP, is his words. He's 100% confident that everything will be running on XRP in terms of payments. As the middleman, XRP is going to be playing as a role. And this sentiment reflects a growing belief among some financial experts that XRP could be genuinely playing that crucial role in transforming how transactions are conducted globally. And with this caution adoption, XRP's price and market cap has guaranteed to also grow. And also, sticking with the topic on XRP, XRP interest jumps as Brad meets with Trump. Everybody saw the picture with Brad, essentially Trump, and the CLO, essentially, of Ripple. Already the largest gainer among major cryptos since the US November presidential elections, Ripple's XRP has outperformed even more after Ripple's CEO, Brad, and Chief Legal Officer, Stewart, dined with essentially Donald Trump. A great dinner last night, said the Post. Strong start to 2025, wrote Brad on X alongside a picture of him and Stewart. It definitely is a strong start to 2025. Ripple finally getting regulation it needs. The token is higher by about 2% over the past 24 hours versus roughly 2.5% declines for Bitcoin and the broader essentially CoinDesk 20 index. Since the Trump victory, it's skyrocketed. XRP has skyrocketed since the Trump victory more than 300%, easily outpacing other essentially major cryptos. And another massive essentially beneficiary of the election was Dogecoin as well for Elon Musk's Doge program. But crypto investors are looking for new developments to fuel the bull market, said Allure, a principal research analyst at Nason. This would include news that the US inflation and the labor markets are cooling or directions on Trump's administrations and future policies until there is further essential clarity, though. She expects markets will be choppy. We expect ongoing softening in the US labor markets that should put a lid on the US rates and help crypto, including the XRP price, that is participating in the same move. Ripple CEO meeting Trump before his integration is definitely a bullish sign. And a potential XRP exchange ETFs, which Ripple's president Monica Long said she expects coming out of the US this year, has also fueled the price of the token, as well as the firm's US dollar stablecoin RLUSD received a regulatory approval in December from the New York Stock Exchange, from New York financial departments. The stablecoin was also listed on crypto exchanges like Bitstamp today. We're seeing a bias towards buying XRP from our franchisees this week, mainly from retail brokers and crypto native funds, said Tong, the head of trading at Paris. This could be because of the positive news lately coming out from the Ripple Foundation, namely the potential XRP ETF listings and the launch of the RLUSD stablecoin. Look, the role XRP is going to be playing in general, the role that XRP is going to be playing is going to be spectacular, is the word I'm going to be using in this instance. But especially in 2025, XRP is going to be playing one hell of a role. Honestly, XRP is going to be playing one hell of a role in 2025 this year. Just the sit down with Trump before Trump comes into power January 20th, incredible. Monica Long going on a news channel talking about how XRP ETF this year is going to happen. If an XRP ETF happens this year, it means the XRP case is either dismissed or settled this year. And then essentially we have the RLUSD release, which helps. And then we have the Bank of America news, which helps even more. Look, the role that XRP is going to be playing, XRP will be, in my opinion, 100%, not even 100%, 1 billion%, in my opinion. XRP will smash literally any other crypto project out of the park. In my opinion, XRP will eventually smash any other crypto project in front of it out of the park. In my opinion, 1 billion% guaranteed. There's not a single crypto project out of 24,000 plus crypto projects that has the level of expertise, the level of contracts or licensings, or the name it has inside the corporate category that compares to XRP. XRP is an incredible asset. It's an incredible asset that's going to change so many people's lives. But that's only if you're holding on. If you're not, look into it. That's the easiest way I can say. Now, but also everything is definitely positioning itself. Definitely positioning itself is what I would say as well. But in my opinion, 1 billion%, XRP will be smashing every other crypto project in front of it. And it really is, in my opinion, once again, the financial freedom project for everyone inside the retail section. If you're always looking for that lottery number, here's your chance. XRP is your lottery number. And all good things must come to an end, which they have now. This is the ending of tonight's live. This was the CMF Live. It stands for Crypto Mouse Family, CMF, Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Miles. I go by the persona of Crypto Miles, and I'm the host of this live every single day, Monday to Friday, 11:25 p.m. UK time. If you're watching for the first time ever, on this live, I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. And politics is actually vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space is what we talk about on this live in terms of recent news and Q&As every single night, Monday to Friday, 11:20 p.m. UK time onwards, 11:25 p.m. And if you haven't already, subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe, like, comment, share. If you're watching us on X, follow me if you already haven't. Comment, share, retweet, and tune in for tomorrow's episode as well. By the way, this was episode 237 of the CMF Live, which is incredible in itself. Now, before we do go, obviously, let's go inside the comment section first because we do have some questions. Most people around me who got vaccinated, they start having some sort of health issues, weaknesses, diabetes, and many more. And the news said more people are ending up with cancer in the future. Wow. Python is on Solana. So if Solana goes down, wouldn't it affect Python network? Yes and no. If Python is only operating on Solana. If it's only operating Solana, then yes, it's going to definitely damage them. Why are Bank of America doing the pattern and not Ripple? Can you explain when Ripple owns the technology? So if Bank of America is doing the pattern on Ripple, it's because they've patented some sort of an idea of how they're going to be using Ripple. And Bank of America doesn't want anybody else, using the method they're going to be using Ripple within their own payment systems. Is the reasons why they've essentially patented Ripple. So it's got nothing to do with the other aspect, but it's just Bank of America has came up with some sort of a plan of how they're going to be implementing XRP and Ripples and so on, and they don't want anybody else copying their footsteps. If anybody else does copy their footsteps, then they would have to pay some sort of a fee to Bank of America because Bank of America did that pattern first. So that is why essentially Bank of America has done patterns on with Ripple and not the other way around. Can you explain why Ripple? When Ripple owns the technology, they're not doing the patterns because Bank of America has, got this method going on that they're patterning Ripple within that method. Share the live. Let's go, Scott. So that's why Shelly. How is it possible for ACH to not be even in the top 300 coins by market cap yet? At the same time, we have the most partnerships with serious companies than almost any top 100 coins other than XRP. Extremely fair point. It's because the retail section are not interested in ACH, while the institutional section is ACE. But the institutional section moves a bit more slower than the retail section, but this year they're going to move a lot more quicker. So let's see what it does this year. In my opinion, but obviously stick to the X's more. Don't pile up too much on ACH. Pile up more on the X's, not financial advice in any sort of way. In my opinion, the appeal will be dropped and Ripple will pay a fine. If this happens, Ripple will be happy to pay and move on. I agree 100%, Orphan. I forgot to ask, if you had MDT and HOT, would you keep both? If not, which would you keep? I'll keep both. Why not? If I had a lot of the X's, like XLP, XLM, XDCH, or so on, if I had a lot of those and I had MDT and HOT on the sidelines, I'll just keep both of them. Ripple board members should say, oh, yes, facts. Absolutely. Thanks, Miles. As always, see you tomorrow, everyone. Solomon, see you tomorrow, sometimes usual as well. Good night, Miles and CMF. Mike, see you tomorrow, brother, sometimes usual. Great live. Take care, Miles and CMF. Ray, see you tomorrow, sometimes usual as well, brother. Good night, Miles. And I pray that you're right, as you are very confident on XRP. Yes, I am. 1,000,000,000% confident. Miles, will XLM follow suit in similar fashion as XRP? Yes, it will, in my opinion. Good night, everyone. Thanks, Miles. See you tomorrow. Orphan, see you tomorrow. Sometimes you should as well. Good night, everyone. Thanks, Miles. See you tomorrow. Let's go. Thank you, loads, Miles. And good night, all. Lena, see you tomorrow. Sometimes you should as well. Miles, I will be selling my bags of ETH and buying a lot more XRP. Funky brother, your choice. Your decision to make. But yeah, I am very confident on XRP. I will always be confident on XRP. And I always have been confident on XRP. Good night, Miles and CMF. Great live. See you tomorrow. Free forever. See you tomorrow. Sometimes you as well. Thanks, Legend. CMF, please remember to comment outside of the lives as well, not just here. It helps with the algorithm. 19 days CMF facts. Yes, if you do get, CMF, Straight after the live is done, put a comment outside of this live on the X post. Put a comment on the YouTube post as well. It does help to grow this family day by day, essentially night by night, which is incredible. And by the way, thank you so much to everybody who has already, if you've already liked this live, retweeted this live, put a comment outside the video on this live, thank you so much. If you haven't liked this live, retweeted this live, shared this live, please do if you can. Good night, CMF. Funky brother, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Great live, as always. Thanks, Miles. See you tomorrow. Artistic, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Funky brother, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Okay, thanks. That makes sense. No problem, Shelly. Anytime. Night, Miles. Pablo, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Good night. Great live. Zach, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Good night to my CMF. Scott, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Thanks, Miles. And good night to you and the CMF. Stormy, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Great info, Miles. See you tomorrow. Commenters, see you tomorrow, sometimes usual as well. Stormy, see you tomorrow, sometimes usual as well. Susie, see you tomorrow, sometimes usual as well. Night all. Thanks, Miles, for all you do for our group. Let's go, Scott. I will be seeing Miles. I can't post on X. Yes, I know. Thanks, Miles, thanks for another amazing live, bro. Let's go, Camel. Camel, see you, brother, tomorrow, same time as usual as well. I'll be seeing everybody tomorrow. But if you still haven't, go like, retweet, comment, share, and follow me if you already haven't as well. Comment, share, retweet, like if you already haven't. I'll be seeing everybody tomorrow. Same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world. CMF, I'll see you, every single one of you tomorrow. Same timing as usual. Everyone have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world.